It is hard to contain the rage I have within me right now. But Ulrich teaches us that rage must be controlled, used only when it is needed in the depths of battle. But it is hard. The Sigmarites constantly attack our values, claiming our ways allow the archenemy to thrive in our lands and for disorder to spread. Yet it is here, in their so-called holy city, under their watch, that my own sister almost lost her life. In broad daylight. Can they not see that they are just as susceptible to discord and being tricked as the rest of us? I pray to Ulrich that today my father can make the Emperor see some reason. Make him see that all this squabbling must come to an end. That action must be taken. I have tried the way of talking. But soon the time of the axe must come. And if our Emperor will not take action, well, perhaps it is time to have an Emperor who will. This is Red Moon role-playing. You feel you're all going to be here for a few hours more. Quite a few hours. Again, you think they've barely just begun apparently introducing themselves in there while you've been having this conversation. At this point, would anyone like to do something right now? You can, of course, just wait a little longer and some things will happen. But you could, at this moment, if there's anything you want to do, anybody, go and speak to someone or snoop on someone, see if you can find a certain NPC. I'll leave it up to you. Again, it's fine as well just to wait and then some things will happen, but it could be a moment if anyone has anything they want to do immediately.
Well, if we're already in Altdorf, I think it would make sense for me to check in on my friend who has invited me here.
You certainly can have already done that. You have, after all, technically been here for a day or two. You were here for the wedding parade. And if you sent a letter, they will happily have responded, eager to see you as soon as possible. Of course, then all the big dramatic events happened.
Rather took the wind out of our reunion.
Yes, so it hasn't happened just yet. But they did say apparently that they could meet you somewhere in the Imperial Palace. Why on earth would they be meeting you in the Imperial Palace? Unless... You do remember they never said what their new job was going to be.
In that case, I will simply ask, excuse me. Yes, thank you very much. You've been delightful. I don't suppose you could direct me to the chambers of Elvira Kleinstein.
The servant blinks a few times before bowing very low. My lady, you wish to see the court apothecary?
Yes, apparently so.
I will go and see if I can find them. I do believe that they're not invited here today, though.
Oh, that's fine. We are long-term friends. In fact, Elvira was something of a mentor to me.
Very well, my lady. Once it might take some time.
No, that's absolutely fine. Whatever you need to do.
Then off this servant goes to find the court apothecary. So that's what her new job was. It suddenly makes sense to you why she didn't want to tell you about it. She can only be the court apothecary to the Emperor himself.
Well, that's worrying, given that the Emperor's been looking ill.
It certainly is. What about you, Kruger Hoffman? Any small errand you'd like to just start now? Again, you can just wait if you wish.
Well, seeing as there's a lot of dignitaries and high-up people around, I think Well, for a long time I've been quite curious about what's going on in my old hometown. This Elector Countess, Emmanuelle. I'm really curious as to what she's up to. What's happening in Nuln, actually?
You quickly learn that the Countess herself is currently inside the room, and isn't available to speak to just yet, but obviously you walk around a little and you're able to find her large entourage. Ooh, very fancy. Lots of fine, noble clothing. One thing you've noticed since being back, the nobles are dressing far better, or worse, depending on your opinion of their ability. If you want, you could just make a gossip roll, see what you can get. No modifiers for this one.
That is a 65 over 55, so I'll use a point of fortune because I do want to find out. Sadly, that is a 99.
That is a critical failure. You go and start trying to get some information. But unfortunately, it seems very quickly that all the known entourage regard you with suspicion. You hear some of them murmuring behind your back quite clearly. Is that the hero of Middenheim? What's he doing here? Oh, I bet he's here to try and get some spy. I've heard he's like a master spy. Oh, well, gosh, don't say anything. Don't say anything. You're able to deduce a little. Null is fine. Null, as always, is prosperous. Yes, it has its poverty, but it also has its wealth. There is apparently some dispute between the Countess, the von Leibowitz family, and by proxy the Amberstein family, that are part of her family. And there's been a couple of disagreements with the nobility of the area of Wisenland, particularly with the Toppenheimers. Particularly with the Grand Baroness Etelka Toppenheimer herself, the Elector Count of Sundland. They're both here today, and everyone seems to think that they are not happy with each other. Why, you're not entirely sure, but again, it seems that apparently the Toppenheimers are accusing her of something, and she's accusing them of something, and troops are on the borders, but there hasn't been any open conflict just yet. Although you do get someone commenting that the Countess herself has survived several assassination attempts recently, including one at an opera house. Shocking.
Who would do such a thing? The opera. It's supposed to be a peaceful place, I think to myself, and then I realized that we were not very peaceful last time we were in the opera. I suppose it's just one of those places where intrigue happens. I'll begin returning to my position after that, having unsuccessfully tried to learn more about what's truly happening in Nuln. But at least I've learned some basic things about what's happening in my old hometown.
Exactly. You definitely can take away, despite the failure, that things aren't good between Nuln and Sundland. Basically, another problem. Wonderful. What about you, Heinrich Schilf? Any quick little errands before you just relax and, as maybe Secreta said, just take it easy. After all, right now, you're here where you're needed, right? What do you need to do and do things, Heinrich?
Well, I, for one, can't think of anyone I specifically want to isolate and speak to at the moment. And so I imagine most of my time is taken up with folks who have heard the name but never met the man, asking for personalized retellings of events in Middenheim. And I won't say gratefully, but politely indulge the court gossips and such things, if for no other reason than to perhaps endear myself for a future favor.
Well, it certainly does endear you to the people of this court. There are plenty of rumours about the heroes of Middenheim you find. You are apparently formidable warriors, master spycrafters, and your leader, Lady Marguerite von Wittgenstein, a master of diplomacy, and again, apparently a dove sent from Shalia herself. Ah, yes, you keep being reminded that as far as most of the rumours say, your leader is, of course, noble.
Well, nothing new to be gained there, but I suppose small comfort that the last bastions of nobility are still on our side.
Mostly. I will say this, you're able to pick up a few ill rumours as well. Some people seem quite critical of Lady Marguerite von Wittgenstein. You hear a few murmurs, a few stares in her direction of some of the other parties from other parts of the Empire, critiquing her clothing, critiquing her look, saying things like, who does she think she is? And is she truly so noble? I highly doubt it. And of course, by that, you panic for a little until you realise that by noble they mean noble of virtue rather than noble by birth.
Well, both would be amusing to me, although I can hide my amusement such. I expect there's going to be a fair amount of old guard whinging about this kind of thing, but it would be improper for the Inquisition to involve itself, and I somehow get the impression Siegfrieda wouldn't appreciate my assistance in this matter.
No, perhaps not. And so, people come and go from the Great Hall. Again, there's a lot of talking, a lot of murmuring, occasional yelling, and then more murmuring. Eventually, people do seem to come and go, back and forth. There are breaks, there's food. let us then start with you, Siegfrieda. Eventually, coming towards you is a face you haven't seen for some time. Elvira Kleinstein. She's dressed much better than she last was, wearing what you'd expect from someone who is the court apothecary. But she still has a friendly smile. She comes over to you quickly, though. She seems a little stressed, although then again, everyone's stressed. That's not that unusual. And she then, oddly, until you realise of course it's not that odd, bows very low before you. Oh, my Lady Wittgenstein, I really wish our reunion was under better circumstances. This is all so terrible.
Please, my lady, you don't need to do this in public. I look around. I said we should go. I asked for the servant to take me to your chambers. We don't need any kind of uncomfortable public reunion. Get up, please.
Oh, my lady, I don't have chambers in the palace. I am the court apothecary, but I still my own home is in the districts.
Oh, I have admittedly a small berth, but a room it is. In my role as court physician, but I suppose it doesn't matter, does it? This isn't a competition.
Well, no, my lady. Well, that would of course go to the court physician, the current court physician of the emperor, not myself.
Yes. Well, understandably, I honestly I had no idea how highly valued the court apothecary was. But imagine my not just surprise but joy when I heard that was your title.
Oh, thank you, my lady. No, as she pauses. Not something I thought I'd ever have. I'm not entirely sure I wanted it, but I am very honoured, of course, my lady, to have such a thing. But again, it's such a pleasure to see you again, Marguerite. And for the record, as she lowers her voice, I do not need to know anything about why you were undercover or what's happened. I assume it might have been due to your work. I never knew the three of you were such brave people. I just thought you were people on a boat.
Oh, I don't know that we're all that brave, the three of us.
Apparently you've saved Middenheim several times over.
We've been in the right place at the right time, and thankfully we have certain abilities that have, and skills that we have trained ourselves in that have been useful at the right time. But please, I certainly do not need my ego massaging. There are already people in Middenheim that are going around ascribing me all kinds of nicknames, complimentary ones, don't get me wrong, but it's very strange to have a reputation.
Well, dare I say, my lady, is that why you wished to try and hide it for a time? You wanted to...
Well, as you say, my and I give her a smile here, which is there's a fondness there, but it's also a clenched teeth smile. As you say, you don't know why I was in that dress and with that identity, and that will have to remain part of the legend, I suppose.
You see her look deeply concerned. No role needed. She's worried she's just offended you. Is this a little strange? After all, when you first met, there was none of this. She just spoke to you like a normal person. She taught you things. Now she's deeply worried of offending you at the slightest provocation.
Please, let's walk through the grounds, shall we? I'm always worried when in places like this that servants will listen to every word you say.
Oh, of course, my lady. I suppose it's okay for us to walk in some of the public gardens, of course, although, again, a lot of the palace... well, of course, is off limits right now.
Well, understandably, what with the wedding.
Well, the cancelled wedding.
Yes, but well, I suppose we can talk semantics when we're in the gardens, can't we?
Of course, my lady. And you are led away. You don't go too far from the Volkshalle itself, of course. He's right. You see several Reichsguards just politely informing you that you can't go this way or you can't go that way. Even someone like yourself. You realise that even nobility need to be careful here. This is the Imperial Palace. But you do find somewhere where there is some privacy from the others.
So would you mind indulging in some gossip?
Of course, my lady. Not that I have time for gossip myself. I'm so busy all the time.
No, well, neither do I. I'm often wrist deep in someone's stomach cavity. And honestly, when I am like that, the person I am treating is rarely one for conversation. So we came here, as I'm sure you know. Obviously, I was intending on coming to Altdorf in response to your invitation, which I would like to find out more about. But we came here officially as part of the wedding parade, or cancelled wedding parade.
Yes, and how is the Baroness? The Baroness, I hear she's recovering at least.
Oh, I'm sure she has got the very best of her ladies-in-waiting around her right now.
Good. And the Crown Prince himself, I hear he's already been taken from the city back to Castle Reichsgard. They say that it was an assassination attempt on both of them. Although that does seem a little strange to me. I thought the Nordlanders had problems with the Middenheimers, not the people of Reichland.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, you were there, you were present in the court in Altdorf. I was wondering what you might have heard that some of us outsiders may have missed.
Oh, well, not much, my lady. Remember, I'm the apothecary. I'm not actually here that often. I'm mainly here to attend to my duties and, of course, to assist the court physician, Heinrich Kappelmüller. But, well, they say all sorts of things, don't they? Ostland and Talapland at war already. There's rumours of Averland having a war soon. Sundland and Wisenland at war. Middenland and Nordland at war.
Lady Elvira, last time we met, you were such a confident woman. It seems so many of the people in my orbit right now are given to these great fits of fear about the state of the world.
Well, what can you do when the evidence is before you, my lady? And oh, so please, she blushes. Remember, I'm not a lady. Please don't address me as such.
I do not mean lady in the aristocratic sense. I mean, you are the court physician, you are the court apothecary, and that does earn you recognition and title. It may not do here in Altdorf, but it does where I come from, so you will accept it when I use it.
Thank you then, my lady. But well, to answer to your question, what can be said? These things are happening, aren't they? Are they not? I'd love to hear you tell me they're not. That's what we hear here in the palace.
As I have been trying to explain to my friends, whether these things happen or not, worrying excessively over them is just a good way of driving yourself into an early grave. Sometimes events occur out of your understanding, reach, or ability to control. If, let us say, the moon was about to crash into the surface of our world.
Oh, at least that's not happening.
Well, quite. What would the average person be able to do about that? What would the highest noble be able to do about that?
Who can tell? We can only do what we can, Sigmar willing.
Exactly. And Sigmar, I am sure, while I cannot speak for Sigmar, would not have people fretting themselves ill. You are an apothecary, after all, the chief apothecary of this realm. I'm sure that if your nerves are getting to you, there is always some tonic you can take.
Of course. It's just, my work is quite extremely stressful at the moment, and again, as you know, we're in Altdorf, and the Guild of Physicians here is the highest regarded in all the Empire. Very highly regarded. To the point they don't really even treat anyone other than the Emperor himself and his highest nobles. They leave that all to the Shallians.
Well, that is a damn shame. I think on that for a while. They should be ashamed. Ashamed of themselves. You know, in Middenheim, I'm thinking of petitioning a different way of working.
Really? Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And she frowns a little and looks around her. I truly hope, though, that today will be a good day. The Emperor is finally speaking to everyone after all, isn't he? And hopefully that will finally resolve things. Finally, all these worried people will be resolved. For of today, he's going to sort everything. That's what I'm hoping. I think, you know what? I think that will then make everything much better.
Well, from one professional to another, Elvira, your role as court apothecary, of course, must put you in quite close contact with the Emperor, tending to his various conditions and maladies, such as on the rare occasion that illness reaches him through his, let's call it glorious mien. Some of my friends are concerned that he has looked more frail than usual.
For the first time in the conversation, she actually doesn't immediately answer. She just pauses for a moment. She seems troubled as she says, My lady, you must forgive me. I cannot speak on such things. Please forgive me, Lady Marguerite. I am sworn to certain oaths. You understand?
As am I, and I do understand. I would simply beseech that, maybe without naming the names of the individuals being treated, you could perhaps tell me of any interesting conditions you have recently encountered and had to treat. Obviously, as I say, naming no names. I would not wish to know the situation for any particular patient, though it is clear, of course, based on who we were just speaking about, to whom it is I am referring, and I don't break away from her while I'm saying any of this.
She frowns a little, scratching her nose. She doesn't directly respond to you at first. You do not need to make a roll for this, because you've already done something else in the past. So instead, she simply says, My lady, I happened to want something, your opinion on something, actually. That's why I wrote the letter.
Is this why you invited me?
Yes, I was hoping to have it over a glass of wine and some wedding celebrations.
Well, I would suggest that, sad as it is that the wedding is not taking place, look at us here, sat in a glorious garden surrounded by beautiful smelling posies. So, maybe it seems that my inquiry and yours have come at a confluence. What's your question?
And with that, she reaches into her pocket and hands you a small letter. Meanwhile, Heinrich Schilf and Kruger Hoffman, you saw Siegfrieda go off with... Well, wasn't that the woman from the boat? You recognize her. A Tillian woman, you think. You think gave Siegfrieda an awful lot of mentoring. You even think she helped her become a doctor. Nice and quick with a sponsorship or something. It was all a bit complicated. You obviously notice that she's treating her very differently now. That makes sense. Everyone, of course, thinks your friend Siegfrieda is Lady Marguerite von Wittgenstein. A noble lady. Your leader, apparently. But it's as you're waiting there that someone begins to approach your table or area. While Siegfrieda's gone. A rather tall woman, dressed very plainly. And yet despite being plainly dressed, you can immediately tell that these are still very fine noble clothes. They're just rather Spartan. Even more Spartan than those in Minheim. You'd finally, Heinrich, been enjoying the fact that people here right in outdoor finally actually dress properly and wear hats and have colour.
Well, bless the Empire for that.
Indeed. They are an older woman, and as they come over, they seem to have just left the main room. You think as they left, you heard someone laughing and a lot of shouting, and then this woman just storms out. She speaks to some of her servants, it seems, and then starts coming over to your table after looking at you and speaking to some servants, and she's flanked by an awful lot of people. You wonder to yourself, Kruger, this woman, her heraldry. Oh, that rune fang strapped to her waist. Is this one of the Elector Counts? You think it might be. An Elector Count is coming over to speak to the two of you. What do the two of you do?
I will sit up properly and try to look as respectful as possible if someone that important is coming. Am I supposed to stand up and bow?
You definitely are. This is an Elector Count, one of the highest ranking people in the entire Empire.
Then I'll do that.
I believe I'll be taking my feet probably with a bit more urgency than Kruger does, and I imagine there might be a sidelong glance that spurs him into action. Whether or not we agree with the nature of aristocracy and who belongs where, I know that this person pays the gold crowns that keep the operation running, and there's a certain amount of deference and flattery required of this job.
The stern-faced woman walks over, and then very quickly before her a couple of servants in the livery of her house. They announce her to you. Quietly, though. Again, everyone is trying to be very quiet out here. They're leaving the shouting for inside. Excuse me, Herrs, gentlemen, the Grand Baroness Etelka Toppenheimer, Elector Count of Sundland, would like a word. Is that acceptable to you?
I can think of no higher honor at present moment.
Of course.
At this, the woman herself comes over. She gives you both a bit of a frown and looks around. Where is Lady Wittgenstein? Is she not with you?
You will have to accept my apologies. Our friend is currently indisposed with another guest, an old friend, if I understand.
I see. Still, you are Inquisitor Heinrich Schilf and Commission Officer Kruger Hoffman, yes?
Yes, Elector Count.
Yes, Elector Count.
She looks around and then lowers her voice. I suppose you'll have to do then. Again, I'd rather talk to a fellow noble, especially one I've heard has some sympathies to the common folk and injustice. Is it true that your Lady Marguerite literally wades in the filth of the poor to give aid to their children?
Well, she has been called the Dove of Chalier, and it is all true. Let me assure you, there is no kinder soul in this world than our dear Lady Wittgenstein.
Utterly fascinating. Madness, some would say. Certainly is audacious, and yet at the same time we must do what we can with what we have. Especially in times such as this. Yes, there you are then, you'll do. She leans forward. I am under the impression that you have the Graf's ear, yes? Graf Boris Todbringer?
To an extent, within the limits of our station, of course.
Good. I'd like you to carry forth a message. I am very keen to discuss the potential of an alliance with him and the city of Middenheim and the province of Sundland. We are willing to make several concessions to him. Perhaps more of the Ulrican faith can be spread in the Sundland. In return, we simply wish for a small amount of military support during such times. The aggression of Nuln must be... Well, I don't need to tell you to this sort of thing, do I? You just here to... You'll make this request for me?
Have I read somewhere that the Inquisition probably would not want to involve itself in this, so it would make sense for Heinrich to pass this on to Kruger?
That would make sense to you, yes. Granted, you're here, and she has addressed you, but again, it does seem like she wanted Lady Wittgenstein at the end of the day. You do think this is not necessarily the work of the Inquisition, although at the same time, if she hasn't dismissed you, does she still want something else?
No, I just mean from the sense of like, we're not supposed to play favorites for diplomats, right? Like the impartial civil service, I suppose, of the Empire.
I mean, that is also true, but at the same time, as you have established, you're the hero of Middenheim. Is that why she's come over?
Oh, certainly. The Inquisition exists to serve the Empire, and thus its Elector Counts. I'll be happy to deliver any message you so desire.
Wonderful, that would be most appreciated. Yes, and also, she leans forward and looks at you, then. Heinrich. A private request. I understand that you might not be able to say yes, but it would be of great benefit to the people of Sundland, and I have heard that you three are people who put the Empire first. She looks behind her.
Oh, there are very few things that would bring me greater joy than seeing your needs met, Elector Count. Provided it is within my capability, I shall endeavor to see it set forth.
It certainly is. Of course it is. You are an Inquisitor, aren't you? I have worked for the Inquisition. I would love for you to come to the Sundland and investigate Countess Emanuel von Leibowitz of witchcraft and heresy. I do not, says this very quietly, I don't have any proof at present, but her actions, well, if they are not of a madwoman, they certainly are of an agent of chaos, trying to sow discord in my house and my people's nation. And I have heard that you free under Lady Wittgenstein, that they say that you get things done. They say that you move in circles and defy the authorities and you don't have so much red tape. And I assure you this is very, very worthwhile. She must be investigated. She's bewitched my family. She is trying to sow discord in the Empire as we speak. And no one listens.
Grave charge indeed. Saying in a way that does not sound like I am being skeptical, just for clarity. Is this something that you could perhaps, not here, of course, but before I depart, share more information on? If only so I know what I might be getting myself into were I to pursue this request.
Well, watch her yourself today. Just see what you can see. You'll find something. I know you'll find something. She is so insufferable, Yes, but again, you obviously can say no, but it would be greatly appreciated, Inquisitor. The Sundland would be in your debt. I know you are tied to Middenheim. And then she looks at you, Kruger. And I know that you are the spy master, yes. Maybe you've already heard something. Maybe you already know something. Just, there'll be money in it too. But again, of course, the official reason, of course, is also, please get a response from the Graf if you can. We desperately need aid. If her troops begin moving, we might... Well, we can defend ourselves, of course. Just... Yes.
No, of course. I will put my eye to this task. Rest assured, Elector Count. And your message will be delivered.
Excellent. And as she turns up, you suddenly hear some laughter as someone else then suddenly exits the chambers. This woman is dressed much nicer than Baroness Etelka. A beautiful red and black dress embroidered with gold. A fine headdress as well for her red hair. You immediately know who this is, Kruger, although of course you've never met, but you have seen, of course, renditions of the great Countess Emanuel von Leibowitz of Nuln. She looks over in your direction quite openly and walks with some of her people and just very loudly, compared to the whispering you've been doing, simply says, "Oh, Etelka, darling, we're not spreading more gossip and rumours, are we?" Etelka turns and simply says, I have nothing more to say to you, but has not been said in there. Justice will be enacted. The Emperor will listen eventually. Yes, darling, I'm sure he will. Maybe next time when you actually have something to say, he'll listen even more, no? At this, Etelka turns bright red, looks at the two of you and just walks off, and her servants scurry after her, while the Countess Emanuel just laughs. What do the two of you do? This is awkward. The Elector Count making fun of an Elector Count. You're not quite sure what the etiquette here is.
And I heard all of this about the Elector Count being accused of some form of dark magic, right?
You certainly have. Mainly from people like the Toppenheimers.
Well, then I'll move close to the other Elector Count then, Countess Emanuel, and I'll say, well, it seems like you are practicing dark magic. At least if the dear Elector Count is to be believed.
Countess Emanuel von Leibowitz turns on you, Kruger, and smiles. Gives you a bit of a wink as she says, yes.
Well, you might want to watch out unless... Well, you wouldn't want the Inquisition on you, I say, smiling.
Not again, certainly not. Speaking of... And she then swans over to you, Heinrich. This is quite a woman. She is loud, she is graceful, and everyone is staring at her with a mixture of awe and shock, except of course the Sundland delegation, who are all starting to, it seems, to leave. Just leave the building. And let me guess. She puts her finger to her lip. Inquisitor Heinrich Schilf, one of the heroes of Middenheim, if I don't presume. Has she set you on me? Am I going to be burned at the stake tomorrow?
What roll do I make to lie?
You must roll a coolness roll, I believe. That would be like, yes, coolness. Yes, your coolness versus her perception.
I will take it. I rolled a 65, and I think it's more amusing if I attempt to lie and fail.
She definitely seems to be staring at you quite intently. It makes you a little nervous.
Indeed. Of all the things that I excel at, this is far outside any of them. So there is a genuine moment where I put on my best Altdorf tap dancing shoes and attempt to answer her question in a way that is diplomatic and courtly and worthy of the halls that we are gossiping in, and falls completely flat. So instead of, no, of course not. And even if she had, I am not one privy to investigating spurious rumors. Instead, it comes out very much, no, of course not, as I look furtively anywhere but in her eyes.
She stares back with her deep green eyes. You don't know why, but you're sweating for some reason, Heinrich. It seems attention is drawn away from all of you as someone else starts shouting in the main hall and servants begin moving back and forth, serving some sort of brunch. She just looks at you and gently pokes you in the nose. You are very comely, and not very good at lying. She totally did, shouldn't she? Let me guess, did she say things like, I've bewitched her family? Do you want to know why she thinks I've bewitched her family?
I know better than to say, not really. I don't know how to get myself out of this situation. Yes, of course, yeah. If charges are laid, you absolutely have the right to defend yourself.
Well, she's trying to upend imperial law by disinheriting her 12 children for her recent adopted son and heir. So, the fact that some of her children aren't very happy about their lands being taken from them, apparently, is me bewitching them. Isn't that funny?
I'm not sure I quite understand the humor. It must just be the circumstances of my birth. In the middle of all of this, and this perhaps may be a stretch, but can I roll lore chaos to see if there is anything witchy here? If there, like when she touches me, if there's a spell of some kind, or if there's something about sing-songy in her voice, any level of weirdness?
You certainly can. Roll lore chaos. Give yourself a +20.
Oh, delightful. I have put a lot of experience in lore chaos since I got it, so I'm getting pretty good at it. A 20 under 74 with that bonus.
Oh, that's very successful. No, not at all. No, you realize quite quickly you know exactly why this woman is making you sweat so much. I'll let you in your own words say that, but it is not a chaotic spell. At least none you've ever heard of. You're pretty sure they have to say things and chant things.
Yes, but we can never underestimate the arch enemy.
This is true. But on that successful roll, you know there's another reason this woman is making you this distracted. But I'll let you take that.
It is a great relief to know that it is merely the old habits of a trusty river dog that have led me into this particular state of being, as opposed to the slowly warming temperature in my body being signs of an increasingly warming temperature that eventually involves combustion. And once I make that connection, once I am able to convince myself via evidence that there is no witchcraft afoot here, it becomes more of an endearing, I would never in a million years flirt in these circumstances, and it is obvious you know that and have taken advantage of that in a way that I am falling for. So the temperature of me remains the same, but the temperature in terms of risk of the conversation does decrease. And with a bit of a tell in the form of an exhale as the stress level decreases, I will add, well, that certainly does make more sense than rituals or summoning.
That it certainly does. But again, Atelka and I have never seen eye to eye. She believes in spending her wealth purely on herself, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but sometimes you do need to actually govern your province, don't you? Sometimes.
I will have to take your word for it, Elector Count. That is not a situation I have found myself in.
Is it not? Oh, what about your dear Lady Wittgenstein? Oh, I'd wanted to meet her. Maybe I will. Well, for now I'll let you be, although aren't you absolutely scrumptious? I could just eat you up.
You flatter me, Elector Count. At this point becoming very aware that Kruger is sitting right there.
Yes, Kruger, you're right there, and oof, wow, she is not paying you any attention. Then again, Heinrich is quite attractive.
Oh, he certainly is, and I'm very much enjoying watching this and watching how he doesn't seem entirely comfortable in the situation that he's in, and I don't blame him in any way. She's a very powerful woman and, well, quite easy on the eyes, so it's a difficult situation to be in.
Indeed. The charm in her voice does suddenly turn a little more steely, though, as she seems to almost become what you'd expect an Elector Count to be again, especially with an audience, and she simply says, "Anyway, I suppose I should go and attend to my duties. If you are coming around Nuln, do just let me know so I can at least properly greet you. Otherwise it's going to be awfully boring having you sneaking around my city, trying to find things, and, well, you know, not knowing you're there. It's a bit irritating. Don't you agree? So do just let me know."
I will absolutely let you know when I'm in town, Elector Count.
Wonderful. And so she turns away. What the two of you make of this? This was an awkward scene. You've just got involved with both the Elector Count of Sundland and Nuln. They clearly have drama between them.
If all of this discord in the Empire would just be this kind of thing, then perhaps it's not so bad. This just seems like petty noble stuff, don't you think?
Oh, easy for you to say, as I adjust the collar of my inquisitorial uniform. I feel like some pieces of it I could stand to not enjoy again. Give me a tunnel full of things I can stab over that any day of the week.
I must admit that it was quite amusing to see you squirm in front of her.
Well, we're going to set that aside, and if I find out Siegfrieda's heard of it, I can't actually promise consequences, but I will certainly be displeased.
Oh, it's our little secret.
Well, with that problem solved, what? This is the third political crisis on our plate in as many hours.
That it is. These accusations, though, I wonder if there's any merit to them, or if it's just trying to enlist any kind of support that she can get. Accusations like this, these should be serious things, but perhaps they are quite common. Or, I think back, it's not very common to accuse other nobles of toying with the dark arts and things, or is it?
Well, actually, now you think about it, it's more common than you think. Granted, the whole point is it often doesn't come to anything, because when nobles accuse other nobles of things, they have to go to this thing called court. Well, as you know, when nobles accuse peasants of things, or when peasants are accused of things, they just get hung, or executed, or arrested, in rare circumstances.
That is true. Well, I suppose it's an old, tried and true noble trick of accusing each other of being in league with the darkness and seeing if anything sticks, and usually it doesn't, but at least, well, the accusation is there, and best case scenario, at least the worst case scenario, at least the person you've accused has to, in that case, defend themselves, and that in of itself is kind of suspicious. So, I can understand why they would attempt it.
One thing speaks to you then, Heinrich. Probably one of the best ways of getting so-called evidence is getting witch hunters to find things and cause a big fuss.
Well, unfortunately, this little badge here says I am duty-bound to investigate. I suppose, in courts like these, the only thing worse than finding witchcraft is not investigating it. But I also imagine the mere act of an inquisitor sneaking around is enough to accomplish some part of our would-be benefactor's goals.
And so it's on these two things that, for now, leave you both wondering what to do next as a servant hands you some drinks, and as you, Siegfrieda, read over an interesting letter. Who knows how the day will unfold? One thing's for sure, everyone still is very, very, very tense. But surely the Emperor is going to sort everything out. Surely.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played the legendary campaign, The Enemy Within, for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, published by Cubicle 7. In this final part of the series, we are tackling Empire in Ruins. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Wordclock, Metatron Omega, Ager Sonus, Apocryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, Lily, Mike Pucker, and Maciej for their generous support. And would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay bonus campaign, Rough Nights and Hard Days, as well as bonus campaigns for Cultivated Lost and Call of Cthulhu there. On top of that, we also offer early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening. And remember that Skaven are definitely not real, and not even a little.